All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about powers of I. So based off of previous classes, we should know that I to the power of 1, that's going to be equal to the square root of -1, which is just the same thing as just I. So if I go ahead and I square this, so I squared, that's going to be the same thing as the square root of -1 squared. And if I square a square root, the square root and the square go ahead and they cancel each other out. So I'm just going to be left with -1. Now, the other two powers that we're going to need to know here are going to be I to the power of 3 and I to the power of 4. So I to the power of 3, we can go ahead and break that one down as I to the power of 2 times I to the power of 1. And just like we just mentioned, I to the power of 2 is equal to -1. And then I to the power of 1, we can just write that as I. So -1 times I is going to go ahead and give us -I. So I to the power of 3 will be equal to -I. And then I to the power of 4, just like how we just broke down the last one, we can break this one down as well, as I to the power of 2 times I to the power of 2 using our exponent rules. So that means that that's going to be the same thing as -1 times -1, and -1 times -1 will give us a +1. So the four powers of I that we're going to need to know are going to be I to the power of 1 being equal to I to the power of 2 being equal to -1, and then I to the power of 3 being equal to -I, and then lastly, I to the power of 4 being equal to a +1. And so I'm not going to really explain this here in this video, but this is going to go ahead and go on and repeat in a cycle of fours. So using that knowledge, I can go ahead and evaluate basically any power of I using the cycle of fours and my knowledge of my first four powers of I. So if I look at this first example here, I have I to the power of 66. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do here, because it's going to go ahead and cycle on powers of 4, is I'm going to take my I power here, which in this case is 66. I'm going to take 66, and I'm going to divide that by 4. So once I go ahead and do that, I'll do my long division here. That's going to give me a 1. Take a 4, subtract that, that gives me 2. Bring down my 6, I get 26. Then I go ahead and that gives me 6 here. So 24. So 66 divided by 4 will give me 16 with a remainder of 2. And then whatever my remainder that I get here is going to be, so in this case it's going to be 2, is going to be my I power. So I'm just going to say that is going to be the same thing as I to the power of 2. And I to the power of 2, like we said previously in our first four powers of I, is going to be equal to -1. So I to the power of 2 will be equal to -1, and therefore I to the power of 66 will also be equal to -1. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is we're dividing our I power by 4, and then we're taking our remainder and using that as our new I power, because that should fall between the numbers 0 and 3. We won't ever get a 4 because 4 will be a remainder of 0. We'll see that in a future example. So I go ahead and look at my next example. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I have 92 here, I to the power of 92. I'm going to go ahead and divide 92 by 4. That will give me 2 here. Subtract that. That's going to be 1. Bring down the 2. That will make us a 3. So 23. 12 minus 12 will give me 0. So this time, just like I was just talking about, I will have a remainder of 0. So I to the power of 92 is going to be the same thing as I to the power of 0. And anything to the power of 0, like all powers, is going to be equal to the number 1. So I to the power of 92 is going to be equal to just the number 1. So this can be kind of thought as the same thing as our I to the power of 4. Because again, that will also be equal to 1. All right, moving on to our third example. I have I to the power of 125. Again, set this up the same way. I will have 125 divided by 4. That's going to give me 3 here. 12, 0, bring them to 5. Then give me a 1. Subtract the 4. I get a 1. So I have a remainder of 1 here. So I to the power of 125 can be the same thing as I to the power of 1, which I to the power of 1 is just going to be equal to I. And then for our last example here, I have I to the power of 23. So again, wrap this up here, dividing 23 by 4. 23 divided by 4, we'll do 5 here to give us a 20 with a remainder of 3. So that means that's going to give me I to the power of 3. And then I to the power of 3, just like we had on our original part here, is going to be equal to negative I. So once I know all of my 4 I powers, it's going to be equal to negative I.